Hi guys, sorry I couldn't be there tonight, but hopefully this presentation helps. Okay, so the problem I was kind of trying to overcome was the marking process of BTEC within sport. Now, the age-old problem is the students would happily get on and do their work. They'd get it all written down on their piece of paper. That piece of paper would then get handed in to a member of our staff. Fairly basic stuff. But that piece of paper would get marked eventually, but tended to stay on the teacher's desk or get stuck into a file somewhere and not necessarily have the impact it should by being returned straight away to the students, so the students can actually act on that work. So as you can see, this just ends up with this big pile of paperwork. We all know that feedback is best given to a student straight away so they can actually react to what it is that they've just done and do something about it. So what was happening was the students were getting their work back over time, but they've usually had another piece of work given to them or they've got something in another subject. So ultimately what I wanted to look at was how we could change that process. Okay, so this is the basic setup then for how we do the feedback and grading for our BTEC course. I've set up an overall file titled 2012-2013 for the whole of our department to use. Within that file, all of these folders are then automatically shared with each member of the department, just via their Gmail account, so everyone has access to exactly the same things. The key areas I'm going to look at today then are the BTEC feedback and the BTEC grading, just to give you an overview of how we use this with the students in order for tracking the students' development over the lifetime of the course. So first of all, within the feedback, there's a feedback file for each class that we teach. So every member of staff has got one of these pre-set up. They just put their initials next to it so they know it's their group. And then within that, each member of the group has their own folder which contains all of the modules they're doing. So to have a look in more detail at how that works, if I just choose Ashton, for example, Ashton has got the folders in that we've currently looked at over the course of the module. Within that, and this is the same as just the paper version that I might use, I just write down what he's achieved, what areas he needs to improve on, the criteria that he's met and where the evidence is stored, because we've moved to a more digital model now where I don't have paper backups of anything. I think it's just key that we make sure that we keep track of where everything is evidenced for verification processes. Concept of this is how most people's feedback would look. The beauty of using it on Google Drive is that as I type this, he gets to see it. So if he was that conscientious that he wanted to know what work he'd handed in and what grade he'd got for it, he'd be able to see this as I'm writing his feedback. The other added benefit of it is that our students at times suffer from not being independent workers. They've always had to rely on coming to see members of staff for their feedback so that they can do something about it and change things. Being hectic PE teachers, invariably we're not usually in the office to then hand them out their work. Other members of staff might not know where that work is stored, so that time gets wasted. They might have that desire to be independent workers, but they don't necessarily always do it. The beauty of this is they have access to it at any time. So if they're conscientious enough to work on a weekend, they can view it. They can go home, they can log in, same as they would in school, and find all of the work that they've done, what they've completed, and what extra work needs to happen. So the next thing to just briefly look at then is the grading. Now this one's really useful, and how we've used this with students. It's not necessarily shared with them directly through the BTEC grading on Google Drive, but it's shared within class so they can just have an understanding of where they are. There's a module file for each of the modules that they do, and there's an overall tracking sheet where we can see whether they're making good progress towards their target grades, etc. So if I just have a look at Year 10 Fitness module, as that loads up, this is just created in a spreadsheet on Google Drive. It's predetermined with condition formatting so that if I put a dash in the box, it will automatically turn that to green. If I stick a 0 in or an O, it will automatically turn to yellow. The colours are quite useful for our students. Respond really well to the colours. They'll see the colours more than they'll see
what they've got or what they haven't got. They see it straight away. Red obviously is that danger colour, means you haven't done it. Green means great, yellow means it's been handed in, but it just hasn't quite made the grade. And the students do respond really well to that. And as just a quick glimpse visual, you can see straight away where your problem children might be, or a problem question. It could be something where they've just all struggled on the same task. It gives you as a teacher a chance to just review that and think, okay, well, let's spend a little bit more time on that. Maybe let's go back over it. Maybe it's something to do with the understanding that they haven't understood. But again, as a visual, it's really, really useful to use. So that's it per module. Then obviously as they complete the modules, that gets uploaded to an overall tracking sheet. So exactly the same setup. The conditions in here are slightly different because it's based on looking at their grades in terms of what points they got. So if you're familiar with the BTEC setup, it's 5 for a pass, 6 for a merit, 7 for a distinction. All of these are pre-set up, so as I enter a number into the box, 5, 6 or a 7, it will automatically times that by the credits for that module and then place that over and tell me whether or not they're currently on track for a merit, pass or a distinction, and that adds up all across to eventually giving me their final grade. So for this student, if I give them, I'm not going to be too kind, I'll give them some 5s. I can see that at the end they will end up over the course of this course with 160 points, which equates to 2 pass criteria for their overall grade, which in this student's case is below his target grade because he should be getting a merit. But again, just a really visual tool. Doesn't take much time for teachers to put these things in. Okay, so there's a brief overview of how we use Google Drive and Twitter. If you need any help, just give me a shout.